Knowing there's an injured dog on a train track with another train on its way, it's an absolute race against time. Just remember Emily, our manager, just being like, Janey, there's been a dog hit by a train, she's still on the tracks. And before we could do anything, I just jumped in the car. I remember it was absolutely bucketing down outside, so I had my waterproof coat on, just ran to the car and got on the road because I couldn't wait for the ambulance to mobilise at that stage. I knew there was another train on the way and this injured dog was on the train tracks. I didn't know what I was walking into, honestly. I didn't even stop to ask. I just know, dog being hit by a train, still on the tracks, train on the way, grab some pain relief, get in that car and off we go. You are trying to prep in those in-between moments of what you need to do as a vet, as the first on the scene. I didn't have a clue what I was walking into. And I didn't know if she was going to be alive or dead by the time I got there. Pulled up to this train station and immediately there were some amazing people who work at the train station who just grabbed me, ran down the platform with me. As I'm running down the platform, I can see that the dog had pulled herself to the side of the tracks. But what I could also see on the tracks was her severed leg. So I was running past her severed leg on the tracks. She was about 10 metres further down. And there was just the most lovely man working at the railway station who was standing there with an umbrella over her. And it was just amazing to see how everyone had mobilised to get help for this dog. Honestly, I've seen a lot, but this was quite a sight. Her back leg had been completely severed. Her tail was hanging off. Her front foot had been degloved as well, so the skin off of her front foot was kind of hanging off too. And she was just sat there letting me stroke her. It was just mad. I'm literally looking at her exposed femur with flesh all around it, it was just mad. And I'm turning around and looking at her severed leg just sitting on the train tracks. And she's just sitting there, let me stroke her, and it was nuts. Immediately called the ambulance team to let them know what they were in for. I then gave her some pain relief and just kind of sat with her until that kicked in. I did not want to move her until that had kicked in, around 10 to 15 minutes, and I was constantly just saying to everyone, like in Sinhalese, is there another train coming? Is there another train coming? And they kept saying, no, fine. But sometimes in Sri Lanka, fine can mean, yeah, you're at the edge, it's not going to hit you, as opposed to no, there isn't one coming. So constantly checking to see what's going on. Obviously, I don't want to move her if it's going to be agony to move her, but equally we can't put ourselves in danger. So those 10, 15 minutes was quite nerve-wracking, if I'm honest. But in the end, managed to scoop her up. A team came to the side of the train track so I could hand her up to them. It was an incredible team effort, and then by the time I managed to get to the front of the railway station, then the ambulance arrived, and it was a case of transferring her over into the ambulance so that she could rush back to the hospital. As soon as we got her into the ambulance, we got an IV catheter in her immediately and started shock rate fluids. She was a bit shocky, she was a bit cold. We are so lucky to have Sri Lanka's only tuk-tuk ambulance. It's incredible. It's kitted out with oxygen, fluid pumps, everything we're going to need in terms of dressings, pain relief, antibiotics. It's all there, ready to treat an emergency case. So when the ambulance rocked up, I was like, oh, thank God, we can actually start treatment, start doing what we could to protect the wounds and the tail as well, just hanging on by a thread. She could have died if it were not for that ambulance and that immediate treatment. So we are so lucky that we have that thing, honestly. It's a lifeline on wheels. Before we had the ambulance, there have been so many instances where we've made it to a dog like Tootsie in a horrible state. They're alive when we get there. And then we would put them in the tuk-tuk, just a normal tuk-tuk, on our knee on the way back to the hospital. And they'd die in your arms, and there was nothing you could do about it because, you couldn't be placing an IV, you couldn't be starting fluids, you're squished into the back of a tuk-tuk. Sometimes a dog bleeding out on your lap, and it is just you watching the clock. Like we've got, 5 minutes till back, 4 minutes till back, 3 minutes till back. And there's honestly been cases that have taken their last breath as we've walked through the hospital door. And it's something that never leaves you, honestly. We are in a position now where we have this ambulance and we know that we're doing absolutely everything possible to save that animal. By the time we got back to the hospital, Tootsie's temperature had come up and her blood pressure had stabilised, which was so nice. but we needed to then start addressing what was going on with her wounds. We needed to do some further investigations, so we needed to x-ray her chest to make sure there was nothing going on there. And she did have a low-grade pneumothorax, which means that air had essentially leaked into the wrong parts of the lungs, which makes breathing to full capacity and full efficiency impossible. And so we did have to drain the air from her chest initially. Having stabilised Tootsie, we then took her into surgery the next day to remove what was left of the leg. There wasn't very much, and also to unfortunately amputate her tail because that was hanging on by a thread. The next day, it was about reconstructing that front foot. That was absolutely crucial. So if a dog is going to be a three-legger, which she already was essentially, then the 3 legs that are remaining have to be 100%. It was absolutely vital that we could save that front leg. And I wasn't sure we could, honestly, at this stage. There were 3 toes that were really affected. And theoretically, an animal isn't capable of weight bearing just through those 2 toes. So we needed to save those toes. We tried to reattach the skin. There were some areas that we couldn't. The skin was too damaged. It was really challenging, and it took us actually probably around 3 weeks to get that foot to a point where we thought, no, we can save this leg. By that point, her amputation wound had healed up really well, her tail had healed up really well, and we were now at a point where we could actually breathe because we had 3 functional legs. So it was an incredible feeling for us as a team. To be able to breathe a collective sigh of relief was just absolutely amazing, because the alternative potentially would have been euthanasia. Tootsie was only around 9 months old at that point. She was a youngster. It would have been absolute, I can't even think about it now. It would have been absolutely horrific to lose her at any stage, but to lose her after the 3-week mark, and we'd all become, for want of a better word, utterly obsessed with this dog. She is just gorgeous. From the get-go, Tootsie was the softest, most gentle dog. The whole team fell in love with her from the get-go. It was cuddles all day, every day. So we were so relieved. One of our nurses was so relieved that she even got Tootsie tattooed on her arm. She absolutely fell in love with her. There's no way we could have put her back on the train tracks. We did consider it. She was really well cared for at the train station, and dogs do live at train stations, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to do it. We just absolutely couldn't. So she became a garden dog, and then it gets even better from here. You can't write this stuff, it's amazing. So one day we had a visitor named Cecilia, and she was born in Sri Lanka, but she'd been adopted as a baby to parents in Switzerland. Cecilia's story is incredible. She had come back to Sri Lanka to see if she could find her biological parents and family. On her first visit to Sri Lanka, she had a photo of her mum. She was staying in a hotel on the west coast of Sri Lanka, and she just was telling her waiter at breakfast about, oh, this is what I'm here to do. I've got this photo of my mum and I'm looking for her. And this waiter knew her mum. It was insane. Just in this absolute, stroke of luck, Cecilia had showed this photo to a waiter in her hotel and was immediately reunited with her mum. Unfortunately, her dad had passed away before she could meet him, but she did find that she had siblings here, which is incredible. They actually came to visit We Care as part of their trip around the island. At that point, Cecilia fell head over heels in love with Tootsie, which, we cannot blame her for at all. She's since moved to Sweden, and she was desperate to take her back to Sweden with her. So that's what's happened, and it is just the most happy ending to this story. So from Tootsie being a young dog on a train track, having her back leg traumatically amputated, having her tail traumatically amputated, having toes essentially hanging off, to then moving to Sweden, having the absolute dream life. She is loved more than any dog can possibly be loved. She has 2 brothers, one who absolutely adores her and plays with her all day long. They just run loop the loops around the living room. She loves her walks, she loves trashing everything in sight. Apparently she loves to trash beds. She might have had a little nibble on the sofa, but Cecilia could not be more happy having welcomed Tootsie into her life. I could not think of a happier ending for a story that started out so incredibly traumatic way to now finding a happy ending. It is just absolutely incredible, and I don't even have words for it actually. I'm over the moon.
If you would like to see more mind-blowing rescues like Tootsie's, then please do subscribe to the channel and give this video a like, and check out the description for more ways that you can help us to save more dogs like Tootsie. Thanks guys.